So you want to learn how I painted the avatar skin? Well, you're going to need 5 paints. Let's talk palette prep. For this effect, you're going to need Scale 75 African Shadow and Green Stuff World Black Stallion, Cutthroat Red, Foxhide Brown and Dwarven Flesh. Now your base mixture is going to be a little bit of African Shadow mixed into a blob of Cutthroat Red, and this will be your lava base colour. This desaturated red will be needed every time you come to the painting table, so I advise you find it pre-made in a bottle to make your life easier. Next, we're going to put some black down, and the smallest amount of the red will get mixed into this to create your ever so slightly warm black base tone for the charred skin. As we go on, we will be mixing more and more red into this black as we look to smoothen our transitions in colour, but more on this later. As we look towards developing our lava effect, we'll be using Foxhide Brown and Dwarven Flesh. But note the drastic jump in colour between them, so when it comes to getting smooth blends between these tones on the model, we'll be mixing our red into Foxhide and Foxhide into our Dwarven Flesh. Throughout painting this model, I'll be using a wet palette. If you're not using one already, get one. And if you don't know what one is, where to get one, or would like to learn how to make your own, drop a comment below. Now let's get on with some painting. The foundations of this effect resides with our base coats. We'll need the desaturated red we've made, mixed with black to get this done. First, I slapped around the model that warm off black tone to cover all the skin. Second, I used the red to then layer in all the cracks. Be sure to do a good job with achieving strong opacity with these two colours, and tidy up any of the red that splashes outside the recesses. If the foundations are patchy, messy and not well laid down, don't expect the effects and textures we build up on top to look any better. To paint the lava effect in the cracks, you'll need all the paints on your palette at once, and grab the longest slender paintbrush you can find. I'm using the size 0 Silver Series from Green Stuff World. Begin by mixing a little more red into our warm black mixture. This is going to get used to layer the inside walls to every crack. Sliding this tone in here will help soften the change in colour from the fiery red to our charred black. Keep in mind that this hot lava effect is going to be a source of light, and to sell that idea we're going to want to create a subtle OSL effect as light from the cracks radiate out onto the skin surface. Next, we're going to dip into that bridge between our red and Foxhide Brown, and use this to begin building up our highlights of heat in the deeper parts of the cracks. This is where having that longer slender brush pays off as we do our best to avoid any paint touching the inside walls of those cracks. But if you were to catch the sides, hey, don't worry, we'll fix that later. Just don't do it again. Moving up the colour chain, we're going to use pure Foxhide Brown to begin selectively brightening sections along those cracks where we feel things would look a little more awesome if they appeared hotter. I can't guide you where to put these highlights, but trust your gut and allow intuition to lead the way from here on. Next, we now mix a little Foxhide into Dwarven Flesh and use this to continue enhancing our highlights. But keep in mind, less is more. We don't want to overdo this layer, as too much of it will undermine the intense hot effect we're trying to create here, so keep this tone tucked within the parameters of our previous highlights. Then, to finish off the lava effect, it's pure dwarven flesh, used to add a tiny spot highlight to the centre of each heat effect we've created. Now let's talk cleanup. If you've made a mess trying to thumb all those colours into the cracks, now's the time to fix them. Reapply that dark red tone along the inside walls of your cracks where you've strayed outside the lines. By doing this, you're crisping up your lava effect and framing it, which will help the eyes to differentiate between the lava and the glow it will create on the skin. Creating smooth transitions in the cracks under the armpit and his chest was pretty easy, but areas like the neck were a bit more difficult due to the cracks being wider and less linear. I can't guide you how to smoothen these areas out, but know I couldn't achieve it without good lighting, a magnifying headset, a crisp tip and a lot of patience. But with all the cracks completed, this is what it looks like. Next up, the skin. This is the final phase and end result, and I promise it's all downhill from here. We'll need every colour again on our palette for this stage except for dwarven flesh. Starting with our darkest warm black tone, we're going to add a layer over the tops of all the skin. This is to reset the base tone, promising us the same shade of black throughout, which in turn will give us better control over how our highlights will look. Then, with a little more red mixed in, we're going to begin advancing on the edges of those islands of muscle as we begin to build up our OSL effect. Throughout this stage, I'll be focusing on the chest, but the principles remain the same for every section of skin. No fancy brushwork, just simple layering, aiming to push the pigment towards the edges, but without going over down the sides. Next, with a little more black mixed in, we want to aim for a tone in between the base and this highlight, so we can blend the two together. I'll then reach back to the darkest tone of black again and apply this into the deeper indents of his skin. This will help break any surface tension and add realism to the sculpt. The avatar's skin, after all, is not smoother than a baby's bottom. No, it's rough, cracked and damaged, so let's not miss that detail. Then it's back to the pure red tone of African Shadow and Cutthroat Red as we further enhance the brightness to the edges of the skin. Next, we add a little foxhide to the red to further enhance the brightness of the edge highlights. Then it's a bit more foxhide added in to create a final spot highlight to the tips of the edges around where we've our most intense highlights in the cracks. It's important we don't go too orange with these highlights. We need to keep matters within the red spectrum, otherwise we risk losing contrast between the light source and the charred skin. And that's the chest done. Now just to repeat the process to his abs and serratus anterior. And that's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed the video, everyone. Any painting questions, feel free to message me, and be sure to send over any photos on how you get on should you ever try this effect out yourself. You can find me on Instagram at miniwar_painter. If you're looking for more help with your painting projects, I post free tutorials, guides and articles on Patreon all the time, so make sure you don't miss out on those, and head over there via the link in the description box below. And of course, if you'd like to support the channel and keep these guys coming, you can do so over there as well. Thank you all for taking an interest, and don't be shy to mix those paints. Ta-ra!